Bonjour and hello. In this lesson, you will learn about the conditional statement, also known as the if statement. A conditional statement is basically a block of code that is executed if a particular condition is deemed true. It is quite ubiquitous amongst all programming languages, since practically every application in the world relies on this. For example, let's make x be equal to 4. Now, if x is greater than 3, we will print something like x is greater. Else, we can print something like this is happening instead, right? So if we run this code, we can see x is greater as expected. Now, what if we change x from 4 to 2? Well, we know it's no longer greater than 3, right? So we will print what's happening in the else statement. Hence, this is happening instead. Now, if we make x is equal to 3, this is the same thing as not being greater than 3, right? So we'll get the same output. However, if we modify it to be equal to or greater, then it's deemed true, right? As such, it's important to note that we do not need the else statement. So if we change it to 1 and we run it, we know it will print what's in our else condition, which is just a print statement. However, if we remove the else statement and the condition remains the same, simply nothing happens and the code goes on. Additionally, we can use the opposite of a condition by adding the special keyword not in front of it. So let's bring back our else statement by undoing our changes, and let's add not. Now, this essentially would do the opposite of what we want, right? So in this case, we're saying if x is not greater than or equal to 3, which it is not. Hence, we should be okay. And it will run this x is greater, which will actually say x is okay, right? And we can tell x is okay. Now, this is used when you're interested in a statement being false, or simply a statement just not having a particular value. Another key conditional statement is the elif statement or else if statement, which can be added in between as such. Right. Now, this is basically saying if x is not greater than or equal to 3, so if this condition does not apply, then we move on to the next condition, which is saying, okay, but is x 4? And then if it is 4, we should see that we will have the output from our second statement, just like that. And only then will we move on to our else statement. So these are in sequential order. First, it starts with our if statements, then it moves on to our else if statement, and finally to our else statement. It is important to note that we can have as many elif statements as we want, right? So we can add else if x is equal to 17, and we can do whatever we want here, and just write some gibberish in here, and etc., etc. Another key conditional statement is the else if statement, written as elif, which allows us to evaluate another condition after the if statement is not met. For example, if we try a different analogy, so we'll say a is equal to 2, and if a is equal to 1, then we'll print 1, else if a is equal to 2, we'll print a2, and since else is optional, we won't include it in this example. So let's run it. And we can see, since its first condition is not met, we move on to the second condition and print it. However, if we add a second variable, say b is equal to 3, and we say if a is equal to 2, else if b is equal to 3, right? And we'll modify our print statement so they make more sense. Now, since both of these conditions are true, let's see what will happen. Right, we only print the very first condition, and this is because the else if statement is only executed if the if statement or before it is not met. If both statements are true, only the first statement is run. Hence, it's an else if statement that has a condition. Although you can have only one if statement and one else statement per conditional group, you can have as many else if statements as necessary, right? So we can add as many of these as we want. So we can say if b is greater than, so print yay, and we can keep going, right? Say is equal to b, whatever condition we want, and then do whatever we want. So in this case, I can reassign it, and etc., etc. And to reiterate, else statements are always executed in the case that all of the corresponding if and else if statements are false. This is the gist of the popular conditional statement. Now, interestingly enough, artificial intelligence can, in some cases, simply be a large amount of conditional statements. For example, many of the so-called intelligent artificial phone operators rely on conditional statements where the parameters being evaluated are the customer's input, aka your phone dials. The conditional statements is really the building block of programming. Awesome job. You now have learned about this building block. In summary, you have learned about the if, elif, or else if, and else statements. In the next lesson, you will learn about operators.